It's not unfair to say the bad far outweighs the good in the horror genre, but that doesn't mean it still isn't mad entertaining. As for every Exorcist or Alien, there is a whole goldmine of movies like Birdemic and Sharknado, and they truly are the gift that keeps on giving. They're all part of that special breed of horror that is put together so strangely they're indirectly hilarious. I'm not talking dark comedies like the Leprechaun franchise or Reanimator. Each of the entries in this list genuinely tried to be terrifying and somehow turned out funnier than some movies that are supposed to be comedies. Some films are so bizarre they are gut-busting from start to finish, often making a scene of terror funnier than the actual jokes in the movie. And when you're watching films revolving around killer rabbits, flying heads, and murderous vending machines, it's hard to believe they were ever intended to be scary. I am the very intentionally funny Ash from WhatCulture Horror, and these are 8 unintentionally hilarious moments in horror movies. 8. Revealing the monster, Night of the Lepus. The trailer for 1972 monster flick Night of the Lepus shows a horde of strange, unidentifiable creatures invading a small town, never quite revealing the central monster of the story. The film's poster is also pretty cryptic, showing a family running in terror from a swarm of giant eyes. What sort of creature are these lepus? Are they aliens? Are they monsters? Well, no, they're rabbits. I mean, they're still giant man-eaters, but they are also rabbits. Now, these air quotes monsters could have been petrifying if the movie used elaborate animatronics or puppets. Instead, the lepus are just normal bunnies besides miniatures or in extreme close-ups to give the illusion they are gigantic. Some of the dumbest moments are when victims have to pretend they're being mauled by a lepus when it is clear their attacker is a stuntman wearing a bunny costume. Viewers were furious upon seeing the disappointing film since they believed they were going to see a gripping thriller. Janet Leigh, famous for a performance in Psycho, also stars in the film, which really didn't help viewers for assuming this was a truly groundbreaking horror. 7. A Mouthful of Shotgun, Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Most of the sequels to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre were trashed by critics upon release, so fans were hoping that with this entry, the franchise would return to form, especially since it's directed by the co-writer of the original, Kim Henkel. However, Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation turned out to be another met with ridicule for its hammy performances and nonsensical plot. And with Leatherface in the Illuminati now, it's not hard to see why. To be fair though, this slasher would have been a forgettable mess if it weren't for the insane performance of a pre-fame Matthew McConaughey as the psychotic Vilma. Now, it's not uncommon to have a larger-than-life character in a horror flick, but Vilma comes across as just unfortunately funny rather than creepy. The most iconic moment is when Jenny pulls a shotgun on McConaughey's character. Instead of freaking out, Vilma grabs the firearm by the barrel and stuffs it into his mouth. He then repeatedly slaps himself in the face whilst grunting like a Tusken Raider. If you need any more convincing on just how surprisingly off-kilter this scene is, McConaughey's agent was so worried about his performance he begged the studio not to release the film theatrically. It is really that bad. Made you! Maximum Overdrive. Stephen King's directorial debut, Maximum Overdrive, is an adaptation of his own short story, Trucks. In the plot, and I use that word very loosely, radiation from a passing comet blankets the Earth, causing all mechanical devices to become sentient and murderous. This explanation is contradicted in the epilogue, which states the machines came to life after being exposed to a UFO laser, but let's not get into that right now. As insane as the premise is, the movie itself is crazier than you could ever imagine. Despite the fact the film bombards the viewer with surreal scene after surreal scene, the funniest moment is found in a line of dialogue. After several survivors seek shelter in a diner, waitress Wanda becomes hysterical and runs outside to yell, "You can't! We made you!" to the malevolent automobiles. The actress, Ellen McElduff, seizes up on every word she utters as if she's channeling William Shatner. As she starts hopping up and down like a cartoon character, it is easy to forget that Maximum Overdrive was ever supposed to be scary. No wonder Stephen King only directed one movie ever when this was the result. 4. The worst line ever. House of the Dead. Uwe Boll has a reputation for churning out bad video game adaptations, and that is even by the already pretty low video game adaptation standards. House of the Dead, however, is bad even by Uwe Boll standards. The story begins with a bunch of college students heading to an island for a rave, unaware it's been taken over by zombies. If that sounds exciting, it isn't. Due to horrific ADR, cringe-inducing dialogue, and the bizarre choice to interject scenes with clips from the game, House of the Dead is beyond hysterical. But the most amusing moment is when we learn of the villain's motivation. The big bad Castillo was a priest who was excommunicated after the parish learned he was performing dark experiments. Through his work, Castillo figured out how to stop aging, but also indirectly created the zombie plague. When one of the students asks him why he'd want to be immortal, Castillo whispers, "To live forever." That is not an explanation, that is the definition of immortality. Castillo has the perfect moment to reveal his master plan and instead utters one of the dumbest pieces of dialogue in cinema. How all the actors didn't erupt into laughter as soon as this line was spoken is anyone's guess. 3. The big reveal. The giant claw. The giant claw starts with an engineer spotting a UFO near the North Pole. When the Air Force is unable to detect anything on their radar, they send a jet into the area to investigate. The government officials begin panicking, believing an alien invasion is imminent. Kinda similar to Jaws, the titular giant claw is spoken about but rarely seen. In fact, it doesn't show up until nearly halfway through the movie. When the bird-like alien finally reveals itself, it's clear why it didn't make an appearance earlier. It wasn't to build up suspense, it was because it looks ridiculous. This overgrown turkey has a mohawk and its strings are visible in most of the shots, making it impossible to take seriously. The giant claw might also be the cheapest movie monster ever since it only cost $50 to design. By comparison, the suit built for Godzilla, which came out 3 years prior, cost $3,000. When the creature first appeared on screen at the film's premiere, the audience burst out laughing, causing the movie star Jeff Morrow to leave out of humiliation. When the producers realised how stupid the creature looked, they decided not to show the Great Claw on the film's poster. 2. Everything about Nicolas Cage. The Wicker Man 2006. In The Wicker Man, a police officer is sent to a remote island to investigate the disappearance of a young child and indirectly gets involved in a pagan cult. The original 1973 film may have been misunderstood upon its release, but it is now viewed as a cerebral and haunting masterpiece. The 2006 remake with Nicolas Cage, on the other hand, has so many unintentionally funny moments it was like it was made to be meme fodder. Cage screaming about bees and karate kicking a woman into a wall just scratches the surface on this ridiculous movie. Cage doesn't just ham it up, his performance doesn't make sense. As soon as he arrives on the island, he sees 3 women holding a burlap sack dripping in blood. Despite being a cop looking for a missing girl who is presumed dead, he jokingly asks if the bleeding bag contains a shark. What kind of question is that? The most hilarious moment in a movie already filled to the brim with unintended hilarity is when Cage punches a woman full force whilst dressed as a bear. If you've seen this clip online and assumed it makes more sense in the context of the film, then let me tell you now, it doesn't. 1. The Penanggalan. Mystics in Bali. Mystics in Bali begins with a woman called Kathy travelling to Indonesia to research black magic for a book. She contacts an old witch who grants her superpowers by carving a magical tattoo on her legs with her tongue. If that sounds weird, it isn't, it's just a warm-up for the insanity to come. Little does Kathy realise that this enchantment turns her into a Penanggalan. Penanggalans are vampires that look normal during the day, but at night, a Penanggalan's head separate from its body, with its lungs, stomach and intestines dangling below. It then floats around doing its thing, sucking the babies out of pregnant women. Now, the concept of the Penanggalan is a genuinely eerie one and it plays a big part in mythology. But watching a vampire head and organs whizzing around a village in 80s effects work looks absolutely ridiculous. Sometimes the Penanggalan shots are performed with an optical effect, while other times it's done with a marionette head. Either way, it looks hilarious. Although Mystics in Bali has scenes with talking fireballs, women vomiting mice, and witches transforming into big-boobed pigs, the reveal of the Penanggalan has to be the standout moment. And that's our list. What other unintentionally hilarious horror moments belong on this list? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. I've been Ash over on social media @AshMillman, and this has been WhatCulture. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and come back again soon for some more spine-tingling horror content. Thanks for watching.